What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So I want to talk about how narcissists interact with children. Narcissists, they have a way of speaking to children in a way where they really don't hold back on their true character, because they feel like the children, they're not going to say anything. So say, for instance, children who are in pre-K or preschool, or even children who are in daycares. You have to be careful who you choose to care for your kids while you're at work or whatever, because they have some very toxic people who are watching over your children, and they carry very negative energy with them, and they can be speaking very bad things over your children. Now, I know that the children are innocent, and God is going to protect the children from evildoers. But when it comes to children who are school age, and say, for instance, they're a little bit more independent than, toddlers, than children that you'll see in a daycare or in preschool, narcissists have this way of speaking to them in a very, very nasty way. And it's kind of like you can see the anger in them, and sometimes even jealousy, because narcissists have a hard time accepting an adult's true character, and they have a hard time accepting the fact that they cannot control adults. But when it comes to children, children have this thing about their character where they're very, they're who they are. They're just children. They're babies. And the children, they may be timid. They may be kind of, they just have certain characteristics just like any other adult human. But with a child, it's like you have to be patient when you're dealing with children, and you have to be more delicate with their feelings, because they're fragile and they're sensitive, and you can hurt their feelings easily by saying something to them in a very harsh tone. And even though you mean it in a way where you're trying to, you're trying to get to them, you're trying to reach them or get a response out of them, you still have to be careful the way you speak to a child. And it's like, that's not something you should have to tell an adult who's working with children. People have to be very careful who they choose to leave their children with, and take the time out to screen these caretakers. The same is with people who work in adult daycares, and the same as people who work in nursing homes, because adult daycares is different from nursing homes. My daughter worked in an adult daycare, and she also worked in a nursing home. And even though the state comes in and they monitor, they have certain days to do that. So that they're going to be warned on those days that the state will come and monitor, the employees' interaction with the patients and with the clients. And of course, they're going to be on their P's and Q's, and they're going to behave the way they're supposed to. They're going to treat the patients the way they're supposed to. This is new to a lot of the patients, because they're used to being treated much harshly. Same thing with children. Narcissists, when they interact with children, and I've seen this with my own eyes, because I work with children of all ages, starting at the pre-K level. And I noticed that some narcissists have a very, very cruel way of communicating with them. And you cannot assume that every child is going to respond to you the same way. They're going to be certain children that are going to give you a quick response. They're going to speak more loudly and clearly. They're going to be much more advanced than others, even if they're on the same grade level. And narcissists, they don't think with that type of logic. If anything, they just assume that, any child that they come in contact with should give them a prompt response. And they don't have to speak to them delicately, because in their mind, they have created that this child is putting on an act of innocence. And they're just doing this, just to pretend like they need certain attention. And I'm like, it's not about that. It's about a respect thing, whether it's a child or an adult. And you should respect the fact that you're dealing with a child. And again, their feelings are delicate, and you need to be careful how you speak to them, because you could hurt their feelings and even make them cry. And I've seen this, and it hurts my heart, because even though we're supposed to have a certain level of communication with kids in school. We can't get too close to them for certain reasons. But at the same time, the way that I am, I don't care what the rule book says. If I feel like a child, if they're hurting about something, I'm going to talk to them about it. I'm not going to get too deep into it, like go make a, get too personal with it and go make a home visit. I'm not going to, no. Again, that's self-appointing and that's putting myself out of order. I will be completely out of order to do certain things. Now, as far as questioning them, like, what's wrong? And, just offering a kind word. Sometimes that goes a long way. It goes even further than giving them a hug sometimes. Sometimes just hearing that someone cares enough to ask, is everything okay, is enough. That goes for children and adults. You don't always have to get in their personal space and get touchy feeling. I mean, if you're a natural with it and if it just comes natural, then it happens. But one thing I don't like, and it rubs me the wrong way, is a fake hug. Some people, especially a narcissist, they can pull that off very easily, because who's going to know if they're faking it or if they're real if you really don't know them? Now, again, when narcs are dealing with children, I pay attention to their tone. Narcissists have this thing about them where they're very impatient. And just like what I just put on my community board, love is kind and love is patience. Love doesn't force you to give a quick response. Love doesn't pushes you and smother you and, just kind of manipulate you into accepting something. And love is understanding and love is respectful. So when it comes to narcissists, they lack this part of them, a part of those qualities a lot, because why would I expect them to be that way with a child if they feel like they can get away with it because they think that a child is not going to speak on how they've been treated? A lot of times children keep things like that to themselves for a long, long time, and it affects them in a way whereas you can see how much it has affected them as an adult. Like, look, the story that I told y'all about I've always been the quiet type, and how to take y'all back to when I was in the 5th grade and there was this boy misbehaving in class or whatever, and it was some back and forth between him and the teacher. Well, these children, all the other students in the class, she needed to get like a poll. Okay, who heard him say, like giving her word for word, but he got the last word and I think he cursed at her. And she was like, okay, who heard, everybody in the class like, ooh. So she was like, what happened? What did he say? What did he say? And of course, he's not going to say what he said because he was just that type of kid. Like, he didn't care. He'll go back and forth with her. That was their thing. That was how he was. And, it was just like she needed to take a poll. Who heard him say that and who didn't? And I didn't. So I wasn't going to lie about it. So I was the only one in class who was like, I didn't hear nothing. Like, I'm not going to false witness against somebody just because you want everyone to be against him because you can't stand him, because he gives you word for word. That's not how you handle, discipline a student, in my opinion. And I don't have to be a teacher to say this. I just feel that there's certain ways of discipline a student. You could talk to them calmly. You don't have to embarrass them. You can take them out in the hallway and have a word with them, and be calm, be patient. Don't be quick to, oh, what you said? And, be with all this intimidation, because it's just going to give you that same old back and forth energy, and it's not going to get anywhere, so I'm me all day long. I've been this way for a long time. I'm always be this way. I'm not going to change for nobody, and that's that. But it's just the thing when it comes to narcissists and children, you have to pay attention to the way they interact with students. It's like they just feel like they can talk to them any kind of way, because they think they're not going to take that home with them. But I really wish that children would start going home and having these conversations with their parents if they come from that type of household. I know I did. We was able to talk to my mom about anything, And the thing about it is, even though my mom knew what happened back then when I was in the 5th grade, it still stuck with me. So people have to be careful the way they, they talk to kids, because you don't know how that can affect them in the long run. It can be something that could always be in the back of their mind, how you treated them, and just to make them aware of the world we live in and how certain people are. Narcissists, they think that children, it's like this whole control thing. It's like they can easily control a child. And so that makes them feel most powerful in the moment when they are like very, very cruel to a child and they speak to them and, just so harshly. And I don't know, it just rubs me the wrong way all the time. And even when I step in, it's like they want you to feel like, okay, I'm not going to say nothing when they do this or when they do that. Well, I don't need you to say anything because we're two different people. And I'll handle that when it comes to that. And I don't have to use your tactics in order to settle the child down. It's like I don't have to feel like I don't have to chest up to a child. How weak do you have to be? I mean, how weak are you to feel the need to boss up, stand up to a child, brace up to a child and let them know you're in charge? It's all about communication and the way you use your words. And even if you're the type that talk in a tone I'm using right now, you have to settle yourself down, calm down, and talk to the child in a different tone so that you can easily get their attention and maybe you can get through to them. But when you're going at them already with it on your mind and you want to get them straight and all this type of stuff, like you don't have to have that attitude, that type of approach all the time to get through to a child. And one of the, the greatest things that I am, happy for, I'm grateful for, is the fact that when I did things that were, not such a good choice, I chose to communicate with my own children a certain way. I'm glad that they were able to bring that to my attention, that maybe I can do it a different way. You don't have to say it like that. I'm grateful for that. I know how to check myself, and that shows that you care enough about another person when you're able to receive the message and not receive it as like without getting offended. Like they weren't offending me when they were telling me, you don't have to talk to me like that. Even if I come home from work and I had a really, really, really bad day. And before I knew it, I've lashed out at them. And they didn't deserve that. They weren't the cause of my bad day. And I'm glad that they were able at times to, hey, point that out to me. Because it's all about communication. And, nobody's perfect when it comes to communication. But once it's pointed out to you, it's all about how you receive the message. And you go on from there, rather than blocking the message because you're taking it personal. You feel like it's a personal jab, or you trying to tell me how to do my job and stuff like that. I know how these kids are. They ain't nothing but get-overs. And I hate it when they tell a child, oh, you go ahead on, because you ain't no good. Who tells a child you ain't no good? Like you talking to an old drunken, old abusive husband or something. You talking to a child. And even if you feel like, okay, the kid is being disruptive or they're doing something repetitive and you need to correct them for it so they can stop. Bring it to their attention in a way where you don't have to embarrass them. You can call them and say, look, you've gotten them too many times. Like you keep disrupting the class or you keep doing things in the cafeteria, and you need to sit down. You need to sit down and finish your lunch so you can go ahead and get back to class. Stuff like that. You don't have to be so mean about it. That's pretty much all I'm saying. Narcissists have a way of communicating with children as a way of getting it off their chest. They take things out on children that they can't, they can't get away with a certain adult or something. And they can also use children as a source of supply. They get off on this whole power move of being able to boss you around, give orders and stuff like that. At the end of the day, they just want you to obey them. They want you to listen to them and do as they say. And at the same time, just as in adults with supply, they expect a child to behave a certain way, and that gives them a source of supply. And with children, when it comes to correcting them, they have very little patience. They don't even know how to communicate with them. And one more thing before I go, I remember when a student came in the cafeteria and say we're having like career day or something like that, and I choose you. And she said, so could you tell me what made you pick this job, what you like about it, and stuff like that. And I answered the questions, but the narc, she was like, I don't want to talk about, I don't want to do that, I don't want to do that, I don't have nothing to do with that. And I'm like, this just goes to show you have no passion behind the work that you do. Even if this was something you never dreamed of, making having as a, to make this your job for the long run, it's still something you got to make the best out of. And who knows, you may, within those years of working, you may find your passion. You find your place. You make that something that you enjoy doing along the way. And that's what happened with me. And then I love children. I love children. I love to have conversations with kids and stuff just to see where they mind at, But the narcissists, they go away from things like that because they don't know how to communicate in a way that expresses how they truly feel about something. If a narcissist is not mimicking someone else, they don't even have a personality of their own. Every opinion they have is always something that just comes from this stubborn mindset. They kind of set in their ways. It's hard to get them to change their mind and look at things outside of their own thoughts, outside of their own world, outside of the reality they've created. So that's just a lost cause in itself. But, and I answered the little girl's questions and stuff about the career day. And, it just made me feel good. Like, they came to us. And before she even take her time out to at least like ramble for an answer to give the child, she was just hurry up and cut her off. I don't want to, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I say, I'll answer the questions. Yeah, so, and then she was like, so what happens if y'all fail to, I think it was like, what happens if you don't complete the work, or what happens if the work doesn't get done, or something like that. And she was like, we get rolled up. And I'm like, you didn't want to answer the questions, but you still listening from afar, and then you blurring out an answer that mentioning about a punishment. Like, no, we don't get rolled up. That's not the correct thing to say to the child. So I told her, if the children, if we fail to serve the children the correct serving, then they don't get the correct serving, of the meals. They don't get the proper serving amount for the meal. That's the right answer to give them, not if we don't do our job, we get rolled up. No, that's not what happens. But again, that's where the narcissist mindset is, and always do it one way or you in trouble. They have no other way of thinking. So yeah, that's pretty much all I want to talk about. Just have to, pay close attention to narcissists and the way they interact with children, especially smaller children, the babies, the ones who are fragile. They're very mean and impatient, and, they don't care. And even if they'll go so far as to make a child cry. And that right there just break my heart. So I'm just telling y'all, be careful who you leave your children with. I know it's out of your hands when it comes to school, because, your child's teacher is who it's going to be. But just talk to your kids and make sure that they're getting along pretty good at school with the teacher, and there's no problems and stuff. Because if not, a lot of times these kids, they hold things inside and keep it to themselves. So, always have that good communication with your kids, especially babies. You have to make sure everything is going good with your kids in school or daycare or whatever. And even with the adult children when they go to college, because I talked to my son a lot when he went to college. Like every day when he came home, even if it was in between classes and he wanted to come home and take a break, we would talk about school. Because you're never too old to sit down and talk to someone and, just have a good conversation about what's going on with you in the day of life of school or work. Even me, sometimes I need to get on the phone and talk to certain people and vent. And, I know that I have those people to go to. I know just who I can go to when I need to talk and get some things off my chest or get a good word of encouragement. Just that good support. You know, it's always good to have a good support system. And to be the good support system, make yourself the #1 support system for your own kids. So that's the end of this video. Thank y'all for watching. Leave your thoughts down below, and I'll talk to you soon.